This is the brand new Specialized Stumpjumper. Killer build here with the EXO transmission, carbon rims, of course full carbon frame, and that fancy new Fox Genie shock, accompanied by the Fox 36 with the Grip X2 damper, so the more downhill oriented one. Cockpit is by Specialized, as well as bike yoke for the dropper, Industry 9 for the stem. First ride on these Maven SLVs. Big old rotor up front. And a hefty boy out back too. Great details on the frame here. Really good looking stuff. The paint is awesome. And we got some Specialized tires. Bit butcher in the grid. It all looks good. Let's get into the fun stuff. First lap on the new Specialized Stumpjumper. I'm riding, nice. I'm riding Atlas here at where am I? Tiger Mountain. It's a blue trail with a lot of fun, fast sections. Gotta keep things in check for the first downhill. Lots of braking bumps on this guy. Woo. Pull my foot out on that. Nice sliding line. Woo. That was a fun one. It drifts really well and catches without much trouble. That was you gotta start by accident for sure. Pretty fun, really, very much like a trail bike should be. Ooh. Carries speed nicely. Really reminds me of my Track EX, which is just a pretty big compliment, I would say. Rear shock is interesting. Man, kicking up some rocks. I've heard some not good things about these Mavens, but these actually feel really good, so I don't know. And that is Atlas. Still got everything in my pockets. It's a very sprightly ride. It feels lighter than the EX. which is nice. It is always funny though, pedaling around a whole lot of nearly 40-pound enduro bikes, so then you hop on one of these guys and you're like, oh, that's fast. But there's still a difference, and I always kind of like the how comfortable Specialized suspension is. Doesn't tend to lock out too hard, and really they've done a lot in recent years. Could be partially the shock too, but just making the bikes pedal better without losing that nice feeling off the top and in the mid-stroke. Yeah, so far, lots of fun. Have to take it up a little bit bigger climb next and down a little chunkier trail. So how's this bike climb? Well, it climbs like a trail bike really should, with a little bit more pep than some 140-ish bikes. This guy almost feels more like a 120 bike, at least on the climbs. And it's, as bikes keep getting heavier, this one's actually not that heavy, so that's a benefit too. Traction is there for days without being too much. You're not bouncing. It's softer than a hard lockout, but nothing to worry about. This is one of the few harder switchbacks, but shouldn't be too bad on this bike. Nice. You get a bit of wallow climbing these stepped sections of trail, which could be an issue on steeper climbs. So back to how this thing climbs. When you're talking about switchbacks, it whips around them just fine. The body position is a little bit more upright than I'd like, but not as upright as, say, my Da Vinci chainsaw or that Forbidden Druid V2. So I like it. Probably give it a 4 there. Definitely a 4 for traction. And then efficiency, probably have to give it another 4. Switchbacks, I'm gonna give this a 5 because I don't see how it could be better around a switchback. Like maybe a shorter wheelbase, but even then, like, it's about how that weight is distributed more than just the wheelbase. So yeah, this is a solid climber and something I'm excited to get on some gnarlier terrain. Descending the new Stumpjumper compared to the outgoing Stumpy EVO, it feels lighter on the trail. Comparing the bike's geometry, the new bike and the last gen Stumpjumper EVO are very similar. Only a millimeter off in wheelbase, chainstay length, and BB height. Head angle and reach are the same. As I mentioned in the climbing section, the seated reach felt short. I don't remember that from the old bike, but too much weight over the rear wheel could be what I was feeling when climbing steps. Oh, the playfulness is there. This thing. Woo! The old Stumpy EVO, such a great trail bike. Both climbing and descending, the Genie rear shock has a lighter feel off the top, and the traction when shutting it down into a corner is immense. Very composed. A little bit more twitchy feeling. Not bad necessarily, but definitely more maneuverable than your full enduro rig. Pushing in and out of corners, the Stumpy feels light, but when the speeds picked up, it felt as if it winced a bit. After checking things out, I think it was Specialized choice of wheels for the Pro build. The flex just didn't match up with what the frame could handle. It's a bit confusing seeing these wheels mated to SRAM Maven brakes. A heavy-duty DH brake and kind of a lightweight trail wheel. So, doing the EVO ride, this is NOTG, one of my favorite trails on Tiger. Just high speed, lots of straight lines. You can really let it loose if you want. Let's talk more about the Fox Genie rear shock. Like I mentioned before, it's easier to get into the travel, and I think they achieved what they wanted with a more linear feel up front and progression at the end, at least for most terrain. During high-speed consecutive impacts and those high G corners, the shock did feel it lacked some mid-stroke support,
And while performance didn't noticeably change on longer downhills, it did get real hot.
Finally got the fork to bottom.
Taking that early, you feel like you're in the air forever.
Yeah,
Holy
isn't that sick? Did you get that big thing after?
What? I didn't pull as big as you did.
I did a lot better that time. All right.
You land pretty clean, like.
Yeah.
Compared to the Trek Fuel EX, the Stumpy rides a bit higher, offering a lighter, more nimble ride, but tracks nearly as well.
Oh, this thing pumps out of pockets. So good.
I would give it to the Fuel EX for the all-out downhills. However, the new Stumpjumper doesn't sacrifice anything on the down compared to the outgoing model, but climbs with more pep.
Woohoo! All right, time for Predator aboard the new Stumpjumper EVO. This bike's got some creaking going on now. This is a brand new demo bike though.
Who's this bike for? Those riders looking for a complete trail bike. Specialized simplified the Stumpjumper range in a way that kept the pedaling of the outgoing 130 bike and combines it with Evo's thirst for speed on the downhill. Depending on terrain, the Pro Build is possibly the peppiest trail bike out there.
Love that
We
section.
may be experiencing the peak of trail and all mountain bikes right now, thanks to bikes like this. If you're looking for the most well-rounded trail bike, take a look at the new Stumpjumper EVO 15.
Oh,
That was the way closest.
Here's how it compares to similar bikes I've tested. I think I'm going with the Loam Score for ranking, but I'm still open to ideas if you have any. It's really right up there with the Fuel EX. Basically, I think it climbs is good, but I do think that wallowing under steps is a bit of an issue, and I didn't love the body position as much. And as far as the descending, it does everything just as well, except for maybe the cornering, and I think a stiffer set of wheels would fix that. Value, it does take a bit of a hit there. And quality, this thing outdoes almost everything except for maybe that nollie. It just looks so good. And that's how it compares. Final thoughts. I thought the Stumpjumper EVO and Trek Fuel EX were quite possibly the most well-rounded trail bikes currently out. The new Stumpjumper really doesn't change that, but it gives the bike a slightly lighter duty feel and peppier climb, at least in the Pro Build. Specialized also has the Öhlins equipped mixed wheel build for those riders wanting something burlier. That said, I noticed what I would describe as wincing when hugged into rocks, but more concerning was how it responded being pushed into pockets and high-speed corners. I even got off the bike to check that the rear wheel and pivots were still tight. They were, and it was obvious that the source was the rear wheel. So while the Öhlins build looks like a good option, I just think a heavier duty wheel set would be sufficient.
good corner there.
That gets us to the price. $9K, are you kidding me? These prices are insane, and the Öhlins build for $8,500? It feels like these brands just are ignoring the direct-to-consumer options. I love the looks, functionality, and ease of setup of an electronic drivetrain.
This is exactly the terrain that this bike is made for.
But man, those prices, if the bike's not perfect, ouch. My only complaint with the Pro Build was those wheels, but at $9K, I don't want any complaints. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and if you need anything for yourself or your ride by clicking the links in the description, you can keep these reviews coming. I have a link directly to Specialized as well as EVO and Jensen USA. New videos drop every Friday with bonus videos on Tuesdays. See you next week.